Hey everyone, I'm using a new lens to film today, so if you hear a little bit of noises, it might be the new lens focusing. I'm not entirely sure. If you hear that, I'm sorry. I'm going to try and work on it, but it's my first time using it, so I'm going to work on it. Today I'm going to be talking about piercing scars. I've had a lot of piercings that I have retired, and I know a lot of people are curious, like, what does the scar look like? Because obviously right when you take it out, there's going to be a hole. But over time, what does it look like? So I'm going to put photos on the screen while I talk about it without makeup, because I want you guys to see what my personal piercing scars do look like after years of having them removed. So the first ones I'm going to be talking about are my lip piercings. I had snake bites, a labret, and a vertical labret. So the vertical labret actually didn't leave really any scar. There's absolutely no scar on my actual lip, and from what I can tell, it's hard for me to tell because I went through the same hole for like the regular labret. Not through the same hole, but in the same spot. But I don't think that left much of a scar. I have no photos to even show of that because there is no scar. As for the standard labret piercings, like the two on the side and the one in the center, they left pretty deep scars. I didn't have my labret for that long, maybe 6 months in total between my vertical labret and my regular labret, and my snake bites I had for years, several years. I took my lip piercings out, God, probably 5 years ago, about several years. So here's the picture. As you can see, they're pretty deep scars. You can really only see them from the low angle. As you can see, looking from straight forward, you can't see the scars that much. One of them you can kind of see more than the other because that's the one that I have longer. You can only really see it when looking from below, looking up above. I did have these scars injected with Juvederm to make them a little less deep, which did help. It didn't help as much as I would expect, but it definitely did help break up the scar tissue a little bit. Again, around my lips, I also had my Medusa Pierce, which is this right here above the lip. I really like that piercing a lot. I would still have it, I just don't want to have that many piercings on my face. I held that for probably a few months as well, no more than a year, and that pretty much didn't leave a scar. It mostly left a slight indentation, but I actually don't mind because I feel like it kind of defined my cupid's bow a little bit more. As you can see in the picture, there's not like a deep scar the way the other ones were. The only time I ever notice it is if I take my makeup off. Sometimes a little bit of makeup, like residual makeup, gets stuck in there and you can see it. So I have to kind of just pay a little more attention to that when removing my makeup, but otherwise, I mean, it barely left a scar for me personally. Next are my microdermal scars. So the ones on my hips I can't show you because they are tattooed over, but I did have one on my face, and it was right here, next to my eye. Now this did used to be more indented. I did get this also injected with Juvederm, and that helped this scar a lot. I will put, and Juvederm, by the way, is the stuff that is in your lips, well, my lips, or most people that get lip injections, that's the material. So I'll put a picture here. I don't have a picture of what it looked like when it was still really indented. So now it's a pretty minor scar. It's definitely still an indent, but that injection helped quite a bit to make it a lot more flush to my skin. So it's just kind of like a very minor scar. It did used to be worse. So microdermals can leave kind of like either just like a dot or like a bigger scar. Mine is a pretty big scar for a microdermal. Next, I'm going to be talking about my tongue web. I did have my tongue web pierce, which is the underneath your tongue area. I removed that, and it's hard for me to tell if there's any kind of scar. I think if anything, maybe there's it's like a tiny bit thicker now from scar tissue. There's definitely no scar. There's definitely nothing obvious or visible that looks abnormal when looking at it and looking under the tongue. There's definitely nothing to the naked eye that would indicate that there was ever a piercing there for me personally. So I thought I would throw that in there. Next, I've had a bunch of piercings on my ears. I've had piercings in my cartilage, which were actually stretched to a 14, which is still pretty small. That's like the gauge that would be in your belly button. Oh, also I had my belly button pierced, the top and bottom, but I can't show you the scars for that either because, excuse me, they were tattooed over. But I had two piercings up here in my ear cartilage, which is your helix, stretched to a 14, and I'll show you the scars that I have there. They're pretty minimal. I mean, you can see them, you know, you can see them obviously, but it's nothing that really bothers me. It's nothing major, but you do, you know, there are dots there. Same with the piercings that I had on my earlobes. Those were not stretched, but you can still see every single dot that I had on my earlobe from my earlobe piercings. And I removed those several years ago as well. That's just what the scars healed like on me. On this ear, I had my tragus pierced at least 2 times, and I also had my surface tragus pierced a few times, which is just a surface piercing right next to the tragus. I do have a scar for both of those. Again, they don't bother me. The scar for my surface tragus is pretty visible, and the scar for my tragus, but again, it's my ear, I don't care. Now, I did have my conches pierced in both ears. I got them pierced at a 14 and I stretched them to, I'm not sure, they were at least at an 8, maybe a 6, and maybe even a 4. I had them stretched decently big to the point where you could definitely see through them. I did remove those, and the front of my ear, they closed seamlessly. I actually can't see a scar from my conch. There might be a slight indentation. There's a little bit of an indentation definitely in one ear more than the other, just based on where it was pierced. One ear has a bigger indentation than the other, but otherwise I really can't see much of a scar. It's extremely faint in the front. However, in the back of my ear, there is, I guess, like where the cartilage, where I stretched the cartilage is removed and it just grew skin over it. So it's like definitely thinner. It's just skin grown over it, not cartilage. So you can actually see light passing through it still, although there's no hole. I'll post a picture of what the back of my ear looks like. You can actually see the holes from my helix, the scars from my helix piercing, and the indentation that my stretched conch left. So I think that if you don't have your conches stretched, you won't have to worry about much of a scar. I did have mine stretched, so they would close. If I got them punched, they probably wouldn't close. Maybe the skin would have grown over. But I'm pretty happy. I mean, there are scars, but to me it's not something that's so noticeable and visible that takes away from my appearance. Same with my lip scars. I don't personally notice them really, unless I'm overdrawing my lips a lot. They don't bother me. They're not in the way. They were a part of me. So that's just what my scars look like personally. I hope this helped you guys. This is not saying that yours would look like this when you take them out, but I know it's so helpful to see what other people's are, because everyone's body heals so differently. And I have, very sensitive skin. So yeah, so I hope this helped you. I hope you enjoyed watching. I love you guys so much. Stay sassy, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.